Welcome to Chapter 8, Vehicle Extrication and Special Rescue. So a lot of classes do this as a read-only chapter. They don't hold lecture, they don't do live extrication, training, or anything exciting. We were hoping to do the exact opposite of that. We're going to have our in-class lecture like always. We're going to talk about the specifics and details of vehicle extrication and other rescue situations, and then go and do a full extrication drill. There's a car sitting out back or on the side of the firehouse for our class. So hopefully at some point in the next month or so we'll be able to get together and do our extrication drill. I know Will's saving the car for us. It's our car, and we're going to do it, and it's going to be awesome. But for now, we'll do our online lecture. Usually the EMS personnel will not be responsible for extrication. This is normally a fire truck driver objective. We may be required to be in the vehicle while they're cutting it apart so that we could render aid and keep the patient calm. Sometimes the vehicle's too destroyed for us to get into it, but in any situation where something needs to be stabilized on the patient and we could fit, there's a good chance that you will be asked to climb into the vehicle and provide patient care while extrication is underway. Extrication definitely does require some preparation, mentally and physically. Patient care comes first. A lot of times patient care is dependent on getting access to them, and that's dependent on the fire service getting us access to our patient. We need to be aware of sharp, jagged pieces of metal and wires, electrical hazards, especially with those electric hybrid vehicles. We need to be aware that if there's power lines on the car, we cannot approach no matter what's going on with the patient until the power company has confirmed the lines are de-energized. And we need to make sure that we have proper gear and equipment necessary for the situation. We need to think ahead and what injuries are possible, what hazards are present or might develop, and plan accordingly. Protective gear, gloves. Every ambulance is required to have some work gloves. Most services provide the cheapest cowhide or cotton canvas gloves that they could get at the hardware store, because they're not really intended to be useful. They're just intended to meet the state minimum requirements. So there should be some gloves if necessary. Airbags are a big issue. If an airbag has not deployed, we want to be extra certain that we do not get ourselves in between the patient and the airbag. Sometimes it could be difficult, but we need to be aware of it and do our best to stay out of the way of the airbag. I mean, an airbag going off at an inopportune time can crush you, can cause severe blunt force trauma. And we do not want to become a patient. We want to treat the patients and stay well ourselves. We know that a lot of vehicles now have side impact protection systems, SIPs, which are just side airbags. There's curtain airbags. A lot of your newer, safer cars will have airbags in every frame. There's now seat belts that have airbags built in. There are seats that have airbags built in, and anywhere there's an airbag, there should be a tag. If you are entering a vehicle to provide patient care, you should be checking for tags on the seats, on the seat belts, on the A and B posts, on the dashboard, on the steering wheel, everywhere. We should be looking for airbag signs.
Did you see that, Dad?
Cornstarch or talc in the airbags, there is generally some sort of coating on the airbag, some sort of powder that, you know, is ultimately an abrasive. And when that thing comes out and slams you in the face, that abrasive will give you quite a rash. Airbag burns is what we tend to refer to them as. And it's something you might need to, treat. So, extrication is the removal from entrapment or a dangerous situation or position. As I mentioned before, you may provide care as the extrication is happening. It's at times very nerve-wracking to be inside a vehicle and be all covered up with sheets while the vehicle is getting cut apart. Other times, especially if you're young and crazy, it's quite exciting. Entrapment is when the person's stuck. So 10 phases of extrication. This is nothing I've ever really learned. I don't know that it's all that helpful. It's kind of a nice, fundamental class level 88 idea of how it all happens. So, peruse it. You should be reading it right now while I'm talking, and that's pretty much it. I don't imagine you'll ever see any testing on this. Preparation is, of course, on the way. Your scene size up as you're approaching in your vehicle, and so on and so forth, and eventually you'll get to termination. That's of the call, not of the patient. You're responsible for providing medical care. Those of us in dual role organizations like Cornwall Fire Department that has an ambulance, Bantam Fire Department that has their ambulance, Goshen Fire Department that has their ambulance, it becomes a little more hazy as to which it is, but a lot of it depends on how you sign on. So you sign on en route for EMS, then your number one job is patient care. If you sign on as a fire truck driver, then your job is first and foremost the extrication, the scene security, traffic control, all that stuff. If you are medically trained and you sign on to be a firefighter, sorry ladies, and you get there and find that the patient is really hurting, then you better render care prior to dealing with any fire operations. In the eyes of the state, you are a certified medical responder, and you are expected to provide care when it's necessary if you're working in official capacity. So if you drive upon a car crash outside of your district and you're not on duty and it's not your call, then you do not have a legal requirement to provide care. But if you sign on for your local jurisdiction and you sign on as a firefighter, and you get there and they need medical care, then you better understand that you have a duty as a certified medical provider to provide that care.
Dad?
Yes, Colt.
What are you talking about?
I'm recording this and then I post it on YouTube.
Yeah. Just like Mr. Clark.
Yes, just like Mr. Clark.
And
all the other school teachers. We have all been forced to do this nonsense. Yes.
Because of the sickness.
Yes, because of the sickness. Triage and package is important. We need to decide if patient number 1 is gone and there's patient number 2 and not enough providers to care for both. So we would leave patient number 1 who's already gone, not start CPR, and deal with the person who's not quite dead yet. That is triaging. It's a very hard thing to do, but sometimes you have to. Additional assessment and care as needed once patients are removed. Generally, our assessments and interventions while a patient's still entrapped are going to be rather limited. So once we get them out of the vehicle, that's when we're really going to go to work. We need to do what we need to do to keep them going until they're extricated, and then really provide proper care, intervention, and transport.
Hey, Dad.
Yes, Colt.
How did you get your YouTube channel?
I just created it.
I would like to make my own.
Okay, we can make your own. The rescue team is responsible for securing and stabilizing the vehicle, providing safe entrance and access, extricating any patients. So that is the role of our rescue team. Generally, if we respond, hopefully a first responder is going to show up and make sure their vehicle is parked in a safe, responsible manner, which hopefully over the summer will be a whole nother class, and render initial aid in patient care. And then when our engine and our rescue truck show up, that is going to be our extrication team. They are going to, set up fire suppression, just get a hose out and charge it. They're going to get out their tools and they're going to start cutting. What's the first thing we should do before we get out the jaws of life and start cutting? We should try the door before we pry the door. So this is one of my favorite slang fire service terms, and that is try before you pry. There's a good chance that that door is locked. Let's unlock the door and open it, because that's a lot easier than a full-out fire department extrication. Not quite as fun for our hero friends, but it could be a time-saving measure. So let's try that first. Anybody that we can get out, we have to decide if it needs to be slow and methodical or if it has to be an emergency move. Remember in our lifting and moving chapter, like a month or 2 or 3 ago, we discussed emergency moves when, we're not really caring about cervical. Oh, hold on. Hey, baby.
Let's go.
All right, sorry, I'm back.
Let's go.
So, securing and stabilizing the vehicle. There's something called cribbing, which hopefully if we do our extrication drill, you'll get to see and use. But it's basically, 4x4 wood blocks, 2x4s, built up like steps or just left loose, and you stack them underneath. There's hydraulic stabilizers that some departments have. I know Bantam got a new set of hydraulic stabilizers this past winter. They're really cool, and they will secure a vehicle on its side, and you could pretty much do whatever you want to it and it's not going to move. But the whole idea of stabilizing the vehicle is that it's not going to move while you're doing your thing. Safe entrance and access to the patients is exactly that. It's, getting the car open, making sure that they cut off the really jagged, dangerous bits of metal and body that are in the way and making it so you can get to your patients, and of course actually getting them out. Extrication should be a joint effort between the EMS providers and the fire service providers. This is not one or the other. Unless it's a hazardous situation or there's hazardous materials involved, there's no reason for this to just be a firefighter activity. If any of you have one of the newer LG front loading washers and have ever gotten the change filter warning that you just can't make go away no matter how many times you change the filter, get in touch with me and let me know what you know, because I'm about ready to pull what little hair I have out. But anyways, responsibilities. Law enforcement is in charge of maintaining order, maintaining a perimeter, controlling traffic. Law enforcement is in charge of controlling traffic? I didn't know that. Apparently traffic control should be done from the safety of an air-conditioned cruiser. I don't know. Firefighters are responsible for fire, scene safety, spilled fuel, extrication,
activated signal alarm 52 Bravo 1. Repeating Kansas City's fire, Pleasant Valley fire, East Heartland fire. Respond to 19 Chiswick Lane. Activated signal alarm 52 Bravo 1. Gross Street South Road Tunnel 1430.
Firefighters are responsible for farts?
Yeah, because they're flammable. Get it?
They're in charge of preventing and controlling farts.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
I don't know.
Preparation involves training. So to be prepared, you must be trained. That makes sense. I'd really like to properly train you on how an extrication works. Rescue personnel must routinely check their tools and their vehicle. I know Bantam does a monthly truck night where all the tools, anything with a gas motor, anything with a hydraulic pump, anything with a diesel engine, all gets fired up and run through its paces, at least for a very short period, to make sure everything's good. En route to the scene, go over safety precautions in your head. Remember your training as far as EMS and, you know, scene size up and initial assessments and scene safety and all that stuff as you're approaching the crash scene. It's very important that you do that. Position the ambulance to block the scene from oncoming traffic. If, only if, your ambulance is the only emergency vehicle on the scene. Fire trucks are much bigger. They will do a much better job deflecting traffic. That is, again, a whole nother topic for a whole nother class, how to properly position. In general, you want to make sure that you point it so if a vehicle crashes into your emergency vehicle, that vehicle will get deflected away from where you're working. And generally, it's just a matter of putting it on an angle. So if they hit it, they'll deflect, you know, away. You don't want to put it perfectly perpendicular. You don't want them to just hit that brick wall, because if they hit it just right or fast enough, they might roll it into your scene. So you want it on that angle that's going to deflect the oncoming car. But that is much better to have a giant fire truck doing that job. And then your ambulance, you're going to need that to transport the sick and injured, aren't you? So if that is used as a blockade and gets used as a blockade, it's not going to do you much good for transporting a patient. So factor that in. Try to leave your ambulance on the hospital side of the crash scene so that once you get loaded, you could get the patient to where they need to go. And let the fire trucks provide safety deflection. Personal protective equipment. Look for passing cars before exiting your vehicle. For sure, check your mirrors before you get out. When you're going to walk around on the traffic side, you should peek your head out real quick and make sure nothing's coming prior to walking around your vehicle. Do I really need to go and hide myself in my bedroom?
Just guys laughing.
Make sure the scene is properly marked and that you're protected. Traffic cones, flares are all good things. We are no longer required to carry flares. Apparently the state was concerned that EMS professionals are not capable and competent to handle something that's actually on fire. So you're allowed to, but now you need some sort of actual traffic cone or triangle as your traffic warning devices. Size up is ongoing. We need to remember that. Assess your scene, reassess your scene as things change. Situational awareness is your ability to recognize possible issues and act proactively to avoid a negative impact. So this is avoiding tunnel vision. 360-degree walk around. Identify the mechanism of injury. What actually hurt your patient? Are patients trapped? Did anybody get tossed from the vehicle, ejected? How many patients do you have? How many vehicles were involved? And what safety concerns do you have for yourself and your patients? A cracked telephone pole with power lines down on the vehicle would be a safety concern for you, your crew, and your patient. Note damage. Bent steering wheel generally means the driver was not wearing their safety belt. Imprints on the dashboard are generally the same thing. Unrestrained patients or passengers in the vehicle are most likely going to have a lot more injuries than somebody wearing their seatbelt properly. Spiderweb pattern on the windshield means that their head cracked the windshield. You need to document your findings. Do not be afraid to take pictures of the car and any damage to the vehicle that you believe a human made with their body. and maintain a high index of suspicion for injuries based on the mechanism of injury. Evaluate the need for additional resources. Is extrication going to be a real long time? Do you have those power lines down and you need the power company to come and make sure they're turned off? Do you need additional fire service because extrication is going to happen? So anytime a Hearst tool or Jaws of Life are going to get used, generally that department's supposed to call for a second tool. If the tool breaks or malfunctions halfway through an extrication, you need to have another one there standing by. So that might be something you need to call for as an additional tool. Spilled fuel or other flammable items are definitely a concern. We don't want to be walking through a puddle of fuel, especially if there's any chance of any sort of spark. And at a crash scene, there's definitely a chance of some sort of spark. Electrical short or damaged batteries. Remember, our car batteries work at about 500 amps. They're 12 volts, but they're working at very high amperage. If that battery short circuits, you will have incredible potential for fire and injury. Rain, sleet, and snow are going to complicate every scene. Anything that happens on a hill, especially close to the crest of the hill where vehicles coming up the hill are not going to see the crash on the other side of it. Anytime you need to worry about a steep hill and the vehicles that have crashed rolling. Damn it, I did such a good job on this and it was paused the whole time. Oh, I need to pay more attention to what I'm doing. So spilled fuel, we don't want to. Thank you, darling. The pat on the back does help me feel better. It's a crushing blow when I do such a good job on a slide and then realize I wasn't recording.
You did a great job.
So we don't want to work in a puddle of fuel, especially on a hot day when there could be any sort of spark that could ignite it.
Unpause it.
No, I did unpause it. We're recording now. Colt, enough. Thank you. We want to worry about the battery. Remember, car batteries work at between 400 and 700 or 800 amps. Hey, stop it. Nobody wants to hear your fart sounds. Amperage is a killer. Amperage is a heat producer. A shorted battery could cause the battery to explode, which will spread lead shrapnel and sulfuric acid all over the place. Sulfuric acid on your skin is not a good time. We also need to worry about that short-circuited battery causing fire or causing electrocution. And if it ends up shorting to the hood of the vehicle, it could make that hood an electrified danger zone. So we need to be aware of that. Rain, sleet, and snow are going to make your day more difficult, to say the least. And anything that occurs on a hill. So we need to be aware if this crash happened, right past the crest of the hill. So any vehicles coming up the hill are not going to be able to see it. We need to make sure that there's some sort of mark or human or fire truck or police car on the lower side of that crest to make sure that vehicles are warned to slow down prior to coming flying into your scene. If you have an injured patient and they really need aid, but you're just past the crest of the hill and you find that cars are coming flying up and they're probably going to crash into you guys, you might have to abandon patient care long enough to go and set up some sort of cones or warning device on the other side of that hill so you don't get run over. That is completely sensible. That is completely allowed. And just quite frankly, it's a damn good plan. Hey, look, it's my mommy calling. Hi, Mom.
Dad?
So coordinate your efforts. Coordinate your efforts. Communicate with the rescue team. Communicate with the police officers. Everybody needs to work together. This is a team effort. Communicate with incident command. Don't argue with incident command if you're an ambulance-only provider. Incident command, the fire service incident commander is in charge. There is no question about that. It gets a little gray as far as who's in charge of what when you have paragods on the scene. But let's say your fire chief is on scene and he is an EMT just like you. There's absolutely no question who's in charge of the scene. And even if there is a question, on scene while people are trying to die on you is not the time to have that discussion. After the call is the time to have that discussion. The IC has to approve if you're going to go into a car and render aid before extrication efforts are complete. Even if you really want to, if they tell you not to, remember, they are in charge and you have to do what you're told. Down power lines are definitely an issue. You need to stay away from them. You cannot move them. You cannot go near them. You cannot do anything until the power department shuts them down. Stay outside of a hot zone. Figure, 50 feet would be the closest you would want to get to a car with energized lines on it. And I must admit, that is, just a guesstimate for a bunch of people playing. There are official rules on how close is close enough. Bystanders and family could absolutely create hazards. The vehicle is a hazard. Make sure the vehicle is in park, the engine ignition is turned off. The engine might have cut off during the collision, but there's a good chance that that key is still on the on position, telling power to continue circulating through the vehicle. We want to take a moment and make sure that the car is parked in park and the ignition is set to the off position. Nowadays, with our new cars, with the key fobs where you don't actually have to be right next to the vehicle and that sort of thing. God damn, I can't get through this for any. Well, that was OEMS. Apparently there's going to be another distribution of, one box of gloves, 2 or 3 N95s and Waterbury this Wednesday. I'm so excited. Yeah, I went through that. Unstable vehicles are the enemy. This one we've. Alternative fuel, electricity is a big issue. Toyota Prius have like 100,000 volts running from the battery to the wheels or to the engine. It's a big issue. Vehicles that run on natural gas or other gases are also a bit of an issue. I mean, if there's a propane leak in the vehicle, that could be a big problem. Luckily for us, we're going to smell it. We should all recognize that hissing sound accompanied by the rotten egg smell is the sign of a problem, and we should get away. Support operations should again be a fire rescue deal. Tool and equipment staging, helicopter landing zones, lighting the scene, that should all be up to the fire department to execute. But we all need to work together. It's important that we all work together to accomplish these goals. Vehicle needs to be stable. Hazards are controlled or gotten rid of altogether. The method to gain access depends on the situation. Every situation is different. What is your bad news?
Can't find the remote.
Don't care. Sit your ass down and do your work. Considerations. Is a patient in a vehicle or other structure? Is the vehicle or structure damaged? Are there hazards present? How is the vehicle positioned? On what type of surface? And is it apt to roll, tip, sink, fall, or move in any way? These are all things we need to be concerned about and have a plan for. Rapid extrication in an emergency situation. That is disregard true C-spine precautions and other limb precautions and just get them out of the car as quickly as possible. Heavy non-flammable blanket can protect from flying glass or other objects during extrication. Bath sheets are very good at this. 1 or 2 bath sheets will do a great job keeping the bits and debris from hitting the patient while you're doing the extrication thing. Talk to the patient and explain every step of what's happening. You need to communicate with them continuously. Look, there's a star on that windshield. It's pretty cool, huh? Simple access. Try before you pry. Try to open the door. If it opens, you're done with the whole vehicle extrication process. Yeah, complex access requires all kinds of crazy cool tools. Primary assessment and provide care before further extrication. So if there's something that needs to happen to keep them alive during this extrication thing, you better do what needs to happen to keep them alive. It's really important that we keep our patients alive. Treat critical injuries as you find them. If you need to suspend extrication so you could control bleeding or whatever you might need to do, do so, and then have it continue. Address life threats as you find them. Coordinate with the fire truck drivers. Make sure they understand the urgency of the extrication. Figure out the best way to go about it to protect the patient. Determine how you will move the patient prior to getting the vehicle all cut apart. So while some people are cutting the vehicle apart, you should be working with incident command to form a plan as to actually get the patient out of the vehicle once they're accessed. Your input is essential so that the patient is protected from further harm. You have to be a patient advocate. Remember, most of your firefighters, and a lot of you are firefighters, are only concerned with getting the body out of the vehicle. And that's all right. That's their job. That's what we need them to focus on. But it's up to us to say, whoa there, killer, slow down. We need to protect this human from your extrication efforts. So somebody needs to be standing back and thinking about what's best for the patient. Make sure you have proper PPE to go inside a vehicle during extrication. We do not want to go in shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops. I believe it was shorts, a t-shirt, and Tevas that I have done this. And I mean, never have done this. Yeah, I misspoke there. So yeah, you should have closed-toed shoes, long pants, and possibly actual rescue gear on.
So did you find it? Cool. Yes.
Get the patient out, perform primary assessments, stabilize the spine, and move the patient slowly in a series of controlled steps. This is something that I really would like to work through with you guys, and hopefully we'll get to in the next month or so. There's certain ways that you could go about doing this that it's minimally painful for the patient and minimally painful for you, the lifter. Termination, which is important. It is part of the whole thing. We need to make sure that anything we use gets replaced, cleaned. We need to make sure that our ambulance is clean. We need to complete our reports, and then we're done. We're not done until all that stuff is done. Let's get into specialized rescue situations. Cave rescue, confined space, cross field and trail rescue, dive rescue, high angle rescue. These are all things, swift water rescue. These are all things that require specialized training. And most of our departments, I know a lot of Cornwall guys have, bear with me, swift water. And it was training that moved through the area about 15 years ago. And a lot of our departments got it. Very, very useful stuff. High angle, not so much. We don't have that many huge cliffs. I don't know. It might be something that some of the area departments have provided their members. Crossfield and trail rescue is very helpful for us out in the sticks. And dive rescue, Goshen is big into dive rescue, Bantam's big into dive rescue. So it's something else out there with specialized certifications and trainings. Here's a nice long list of, ski patrol is big for you guys in Cornwall. SWAT TEAC training, the TECCC Tactical Environment Critical Care training is a thing. Rope rescue is definitely a thing. Water and small craft, whitewater, which is our swift water rescue. These are all very handy specialized training programs to take part in. But we might not have this training, and we might just be able to recognize that it's needed, at which point you call for it. You might not know who in the area has this training, but all we need to know how to do is tell LCD that we need, specialized team for whatever rescue, and they should be able to source you that team and get them to your scene. Staging area for these calls is very important. It's important that you go there and wait there until you're called upon. If you need to make wee-wees, it's very important that somebody in the staging area knows where you went. Because if they suddenly need the ambulance crew and you are nowhere to be found, that's going to be a problem. So again, communication is key. It's okay to have to make wee-wees, and it's okay to go and find a tree to do that. But we need to make sure that our crew members and our staging area commander know what's up and where you're going. It's important that we don't become a Yahoo who just goes charging right in, even though we're told to wait in the staging area. A lot of times these scenes are chaotic at best, and it's important that we don't have freelancers trying to do whatever the hell they want. So if you're directed to a staging area, we should absolutely go to the staging area. Search and rescue. Ambulance is probably going to be called to stage and stand by. Sometimes very frustrating, especially when you're not getting paid by the hour, to have to sit there and wait. But at some point, there's a good chance your services will be needed and you need to be there to provide them. There's a good chance that once the search and rescue crew finds the patient, hopefully they will be prepared to provide immediate life-saving aid, and then they'll either bring the patient to you or you to the patient to continue treatment. It might be a situation where they call you on the radio and say, hey, bring your ambulance to, this trailhead, or stand by for your ATVs to come and scoop you up. Whatever the directives are, that's what you're going to do. It's not rocket science here. Cave-ins, trench collapses, no thanks. I'm rather claustrophobic. I want no part of that nonsense. Generally, anybody who's stuck in a collapse is pretty well screwed. There's not much movement that you could do. Most people freak out and try to breathe heavy and end up suffocating themselves. It's just not a good thing. In general, there is going to be not hardware, but safety devices in place in a trench to keep a cave-in from happening. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that well. But trench collapses could happen anywhere. Anywhere they're doing road construction, anywhere they're digging a hole to replace a water main or a sewer line, this could happen. Secondary collapse is always an issue. You want to make sure that your vehicle is far, far away from the collapse scene. All vehicles should be turned off in case there's any kind of gas escaping from the hole. Road traffic should absolutely be diverted. No road should stay open with a collapse on the oncoming side of it. Construction equipment should be expected to be unstable in the area of the cave-in, and it should be moved or approached with very careful regard. You do not enter the trench without proper training and proper shoring. That's making sure that the trench is not going to collapse any worse. Medical personnel trained in cave-in and trench collapse will provide most medical care. Absolutely. If you are the transporting provider, you're going to sit back and wait for further instructions. There's a chance that the collapse specialist is going to transport with you. Never puff up and say, no, my ambulance, my patient now. We need to work as a team. If somebody has specialized training that might aid the patient in any way, absolutely encourage them to come along. There's a good chance that that won't happen. The specialized team will get the patient out of the hole and transfer care to you, give a quick report of exactly what they found when they first made patient contact, and then hand them over to you, and you're going to treat them like any other patient. Tactical emergency medical support. Law enforcement normally have their own EMTs or medics. Sometimes they will hire paramedics and give them additional training and then have them train with the SWAT team or the special incident team and then respond with them as a member of that unit. We are going to report to the incident commander for a police action. We should expect a police officer, like a high-ranking officer, to be the incident commander. We are not going to use lights and sirens to approach these scenes unless you want to piss off said incident commander or they specifically gave you instruction to respond hot. But generally, if they just want you coming for the standby purpose, you're going to respond with the flow of traffic and make as little noise as possible. Structure fires. An ambulance should be at every actual working fire. If not for the victims inside the building, but for the firefighters trying to fight the fire. There's a good chance that the firefighters will get a stubbed toe or a hangnail and need emergent life-saving care. And that's what you need to be there for. Incident commander, where the ambulance should be staged. Again, you want to make sure that you're not in the way of the big red trucks. The BRTs have precedence here. You want to make sure that you are somewhere available for the firefighters or residents as you're needed. You want to make sure your ambulance is able to get to the hospital on a moment's notice if you have a sudden need for transport. There's a lot that goes into this. You need to make sure that if you don't have the proper radio channels, that somebody's hanging out with the incident commander. Not pestering him, not telling him stories, but staying close where he could see you and he could scream out to you, hey, I need an EMT at this location. You know, B side of house for firefighter down. So these are things that we need to be aware of. And we need to do it right. Search and rescue is a firefighter thing. A lot of us are both. And we need to, understand that if we're assigned to the ambulance as the transport unit, we need to remain available for that transport unit. If your incident commander says, hey, I need you inside, you're an interior firefighter, you need to protest no matter how bad you want to go in, and then do what your commander says. But make sure that you voice your concerns, that you are the transporting provider, and then do what he says and go and have fun. I did it again. I just was telling you, but you weren't listening. Because, you weren't listening. No, it's all my fault. I hit the pause button by accident. So there's 40 slides of review. You should expect to see a few questions on the National Reg about vehicle extrication and special rescue. So it certainly won't hurt you to take a moment and run through these review questions. I'm going to give you 3 seconds on each slide just to be able to pause it and read it and then start playing again. But I'm not going to keep talking through it. I want to mention that during the, I think it was transport operations, only one of you made it to the special question and emailed me an answer. So thank you, Bethany, for actually paying attention, and boo to the rest of you, miscreants. All right, there's your answer, C. And there's the reasons.
It's in the battery pack cover. It's really important. Actually, no. If you're streaming, you have to have this in it. No. It's square. I mean triangular. Triangular. It's like this, but a lot shorter. And it's two of these, and it's black. And it's flat. No, it's rectangle. It's a rectangle.
Colt, were you able to find the remote control upstairs?
Yes. Now we're looking for another thing. Oh, spy camera's battery pack. Cover.
Awesome. Why'd you take it off?
I was curious.
Oh, yeah. Curious killed the cat, son.
Why does curiosity kills a cat?
Because the curious cat got his head stuck in a trap.
Is that from one of your old cartoons when you were a kid?
Yes. Well, could you help Colty search through all the toys?
I am.
You're going to have to end up putting your constructs in the bag one at a time to try to find that battery cover.
He knows that. Yes, I did.
Oops, I think I passed that other one too fast. Sorry.
Like, I know where it is. Like, it's like in somewhere in this area. Well, it should be where you look. It's somewhere in this area. It should be somewhere in this area.
Grain silos, huge. In the Midwest, a lot of entrapments, a lot of injuries happen in grain silos. And to extricate from a 65-foot tall grain silo that's full or half full is generally the issue, could be a very big deal. You should be able to find videos on grain silo rescue on YouTube. It would be worth your while to watch them. I know we don't have them here. It's not something we're going to experience, but it is a pretty neat topic as far as specialized rescue.
Hey, Daddy.
Yeah?
Will you get my own security camera now?
Not at this point.
Okay. Found it. I told you it was in that area. And you put it in the wrong way, Phoebe. Phoebe, the way it has to be. Now this is going to take a lot